Introducing a completely redesigned experience that you can sense. And that senses you. The new Dell Latitude laptops bring your work closer to you.
Tonight, breaking news. Reports the man accused of being SA's notorious bicycle bandit has been granted the right to die.
I'm innocent. An Adelaide woman pleads not guilty to the poisoning murder of both her parents.
$30 million more to fix SA's sick system. The Premier's budget plan to get more beds in hospitals.
No anger, just empathy. A victim's understanding towards the man accused of setting a luxury car alight.
And big selection calls as the Crows try to salvage the season and the club's pride.
This is Adelaide's 9 News with Kate Collins and Brenton Ragless.
Good evening. It's a case that's gripped the South Australian public for decades and took police 20 years to make a breakthrough.
But tonight, reports the man accused of being the notorious bicycle bandit may never stand trial because he's been granted the right to die. Kelly Hughes has been following this development. Kelly, what can you tell us?
Kate, it's understood 73-year-old Kim Parsons has been approved for voluntary assisted dying just 8 months before he is due to stand trial. The Advertiser is tonight reporting Parsons, who has terminal cancer, is in possession of a VAT kit and has been granted approval to use it under SA's assisted dying laws. Parsons, 73, is accused of carrying out 10 armed bank robberies in small South Australian towns between 2004 and 2014. Police say between July 2004 and June 2009, robberies occurred at banks in various towns, including Lobethal, Blackwood, Mount Pleasant, Tanunda, Yankalilla, Balaclava and Willunga, with a total of more than $250,000 stolen. Parsons was arrested last year after a 20-year investigation, with police alleging they were able to match his DNA to a bike which was left at one of the crime scenes. But now these reports suggest victims of the robberies may never see the suspect stand trial. We've contacted SA Health, who told us it does not comment on individual applications made. Kate?
Kelly, thank you. A Craigmore woman charged with killing both her elderly parents by poisoning them has pleaded not guilty to the charges. Beth Excel was in court. Beth, she's been ordered to stand trial.
Kate, Raylene Polemiadis will be headed to the Supreme Court, where, as you say, she'll stand trial on 2 counts of murder. The 63-year-old remains on continuing bail, and she arrived here at the Magistrates Court this morning, supported by her son, as she headed inside to stand in the dock and formally deny allegations that she injected her 94-year-old parents with lethal doses of her own prescribed insulin a year apart. Mother Brenda Anderson in 2022 and Father Linton Anderson in May last year. Polemiadis was charged with the 2 counts of murder 2 months later in July, but after spending time in custody was granted bail by a Supreme Court judge under strict conditions so that she could better manage her type 1 diabetes at home. Since then, she's been accused of breaching her home detention bail 5 times, including with alleged trips to the shops. Now, her matter will next return to the state's highest court in August, where a date will be set for her trial. Brenton.
Beth Excel, thank you. An Adelaide man accused of planning a terror attack has been found not guilty. Former Department of Defence employee Artem Vasiliev stood trial in the Supreme Court. He was charged with planning a terror attack on the Cherry Gardens electrical substation. It had been alleged the motive was to advance the cause of white nationalism. Today, a jury found he was innocent of the charge, but remains behind bars.
I guess he's relieved. He's still in custody. He's got other offences he's still got to be sentenced for, so it's just one step in the journey for him.
Vasiliev will be sentenced for firearms crimes later.
2 major Adelaide hospitals will be given fresh upgrades to urgently bring online more bed capacity. The cash injection set to be a taste of significant new record health spend as the government desperately works to fix the system.
It's empty now, but this new emergency department at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital has got something coming for it.
I think we're trying to keep up with our current demand, let alone the future demand.
This new 52-bed building will open next month, and today on Budget Eve, our leaders came with their chequebook to expand the hospital again.
One thing that is clear is that we need more capacity.
The government says it can do that by retrofitting space in the current ageing hospital. It'll cost nearly $14 million and create 36 more beds.
We won't need to build a new building. We'll essentially be retrofitting two spaces to move the outpatients and create the beds.
Lower McEwen Hospital will also get more capacity, with administration space to be converted, creating 20 extra beds. Both upgrades set to be finished and ready by the end of next year, adding on to existing government commitments.
We will see 150 beds this year and then another 186 next year. That is a step change.
Also in the budget, new money to build 3 new ambulance stations and introducing an electronic patient record system that removes pen and paper.
Most other states have a system like that in place already. We don't.
This all set to be a taste of what the government's total spend on health will be. $4.4 billion has been allocated over the last 2 years. Tomorrow, that will grow again, as our health system continues to battle an emergency of its own. Another 88 elective surgeries cancelled today.
Everything that the government has applied to the ramping crisis to date, their headline election commitment, hasn't moved the dial.
Now, I also have exclusive details tonight of another budget announcement. The state government will spend $6 million over the next 4 years trying to lure businesses here from interstate. A large bulk of the funding will be on advertising, which I'm told will see similar attack ads like this we saw roll out in Melbourne last year. This one in the heart of the Victorian capital, saying business is better in SA. This funding will also include cash incentives for businesses who move over. Applications will open from July. Brenton.
Terrific. Thank you, Ollie. And we can also confirm tonight the state government will be announcing $3.3 million in tomorrow's budget for frontline domestic violence services across the state. An additional $1.5 million has also been allocated to help respond to the Royal Commission into domestic family and sexual violence, which will begin on the 1st of July.
South Australia Police will be heavily involved and we embrace the opportunity. I'm confident other government agencies will also be involved, and non-government agencies and members of the community. So I think it gives us a chance to understand the full picture.
SA Police says it welcomes funding that will help relieve pressure on the front line.
A man has been charged with arson over a fire which destroyed a luxury Mercedes-Benz in an undercover car park at Norwood. But rather than anger, the victim has reacted with empathy and compassion, believing the suspect is a homeless man who likely lit a fire just to stay warm.
Smoke fills an underground car park as petrol spilling from a Mercedes-Benz fuels the fireball. Emergency services confronted with this blaze after the alarm was raised on Osmond Terrace just before 6:30 this morning.
Running fuel coming out of it, difficulty extinguishing, we're going to be here for a while.
The owner was on her way to the gym when the fire started, calling 000 before rushing back home and alerting her husband.
Oh, all I saw just is the building full of smoke coming out of the windows and just fire.
Firefighters working to douse the flames billowing into the sky.
We struggled to get on top of it because it was a running fuel fire. From the owner, we found out it was 70 litres of fuel and filled up yesterday.
Police quickly on scene, arresting a man suspected of lighting the fire who's believed to be homeless.
We don't know the ins and outs about it. Maybe he was just trying to warm up with some clothing, and maybe most of the people around here that are homeless, they do get that help.
It was possibly something ignited under the vehicle.
Detectives inspect the mangled wreck and search a bag. Fortunately, Eric is insured and says it's lucky no one was hurt in the attack.
I'm not angry with anyone at the moment. I'm just, it's just upsetting for my wife. That's the only thing. That's all we care about. No one was hurt, and that's the main thing.
The 33-year-old man was refused bail and charged with arson. Michaela Kamarek, 9 News.
And an investigation is underway into a car fire at Woodville Gardens. Mercedes-Benz fully ablaze outside a home on Liberty Grove around 4 this morning. Firefighters extinguishing the fire before it could spread to nearby properties, but the car was destroyed. Police are asking anyone who witnessed suspicious activity to call Crime Stoppers.
A 70-year-old man is tonight fighting for life in hospital after a horror crash on the Sturt Highway at Kingsford, north of Adelaide this morning. His passenger, a 59-year-old woman, was also seriously injured after their Corolla collided with another car near the intersection of Argent Road. That driver was uninjured. The Sturt Highway has now reopened. Investigations are ongoing.
A driver who killed a beloved southern suburb school teacher in a horror crash at McLaren Vale won't spend a day behind bars. John Salapatis was found guilty by a jury of causing death by dangerous driving, but he'll be allowed to serve his 3-year sentence at home. The 59-year-old failed to give way and ploughed through an intersection at McLaren Vale in 2021, killing mother of 2, Bernice Sternberg. Salapatis maintains he's innocent and has never apologised for his actions.
A cleaner has been badly burnt in an explosion from a combustion heater at a home on Casuarina Drive in Parafield Gardens this morning. Firefighters say the heater had just been lit when the woman opened its door, sparking a large rush of flames.
She laid down on the ground, but like the heater's where carpet was. Probably wasn't the best situation, and I just wanted to get her away from the fire.
A pet dog was also caught up in the incident, a mobile vet arriving on scene to tend to the pug's injuries.
Thousands of dollars in fines and lengthy bans have been handed out to 2 men involved in an ugly fourth-quarter brawl which forced an Adelaide Metro football match to be abandoned. Gus McDonald has been following the story. Gus, the Adelaide Footy League handed down the penalties today.
They did, Brenton. They've both been given bans for the fight which boiled over during a game at Norwood Oval. In this vision, you can see Old Scotch Collegian player Max Marsland get into a physical altercation with a Pembroke Old Scholars supporter. Marsland and the number 33 Guernsey was found guilty of serious misconduct and handed a 9-week ban plus a 3-week suspended sentence. As for the Pembroke Old Scholars supporter, who remains unnamed, the league has no formal jurisdiction over spectators, but he did receive a life ban from registering to play in that league. That can only be overturned if he faces a league tribunal. Both the teams received fines upwards of $1,000 for bringing the game into disrepute. Kate, an event like this hasn't happened in the league in over a decade. I've spoken to the league's chief, John Kernahan, this afternoon, who says the league facilitates 3,000 matches a year and relies on clubs to set and maintain their own acceptable standards.
Gus, thank you. Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock says she won't hesitate to raise interest rates if inflation doesn't come down. She sounded the warning as new data showed Australia's economic growth has stalled.
The Reserve Bank Governor and the words mortgage holders dread.
If it turns out, for example, that inflation starts to go up again, or it's much stickier than we think, we're not getting it down, then we won't hesitate to move and raise interest rates again.
I think it's very clear to us, I don't speak for the bank, but it's very clear to Australians more broadly, that the economy is barely growing.
The Governor confirming the $300 coming off energy bills won't hurt inflation, but also won't speed up a rate cut.
Inflation might have a 2 on it in a headline sense. It might affect people's sort of expectations. We're looking through that to the underlying, the trim mean if you like, and we don't think it's going to have an impact.
There's a whole generation of Australians who've never seen anything like this before.
And with interest rates hitting homeowners, renters and small businesses, tonight Australians are paying more, but giving more and asking for more as well. The latest Australian charity report showing an $11 billion jump in charitable donations, but a $22 billion jump in expenses.
What we're hearing a lot is people who are just struggling to make ends meet. People are reaching out to community service just to take a little bit of pressure off the budget.
We hear a lot about the fact that charities are seeing people come in who they haven't seen before.
Having a job and a strong labour market is the saving grace for so many tonight, but with household budgets set to tighten further, unemployment will inevitably rise.
Is the narrow path narrowing?
It was pretty narrow to begin with, I'd say.
In the second half of the year, our cost of living help arrives, and that will support activity in our economy as well.
Tax cuts are guaranteed, rate cuts are not, and that may be the difference for so many come Christmas. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
And the pulse of the economy is the weakest it's been in decades. Finance editor Chris Kohler explains why.
Over the quarter, the economy grew 0.1%. Over the year, 1.1%. That is, not including the pandemic, the weakest rate of growth since the early 90s. After all those interest rate rises, no one wants to spend. If no one wants to spend, then growth grinds to a halt. Still, we were told today things are going to plan.
Are we still on that narrow path?
The board judges that, yes, we still are on that narrow path.
That path to economic recovery is taking Australians to places not seen in a generation. Consumer sentiment data shows that we've only felt this bad for this long in the mid-1970s, early 1990s and now. So whether we're technically in a recession or not, that's the mood of the country while the Reserve Bank and the government decide what to do next.
Crows Chairman John Olsen admits there is another hurdle, despite the long-awaited planning approval going through for the new multi-million-dollar headquarters at Thebarton Oval. A local council now holds the power to unlocking the Crows move, and even the Premier has weighed in, frustrated at the deadlock.
Crows players are one step closer to training on a new deck. The club finally given planning approval on the $100 million Thebarton HQ.
The last significant hurdle for us moving forward in developing Thebarton Oval.
The SANFL still needs to secure a move to West Lakes to unlock the Crows' move to a new home.
There is still another final hurdle regarding Charles Sturt Council. We're going to monitor that closely.
The SANFL happy to move into the Crow's Nest at West Lakes. Charles Sturt Council must approve their licence, but want assurances the public will have plenty of open space to share Football Park with the community.
We have an arrangement to compensate SANFL, and that compensation is available until the 30th of June.
1,800 submissions were made during this round of community consultation on the SANFL's use of Football Park. They'll go towards making up recommendations to be considered by Charles Sturt Council on Tuesday.
And we just want to see everyone just get on with the job. You know, we're getting on with our job. The Crows should be allowed to get on with theirs, and councils shouldn't be standing in the way of it.
Local residents opposed to the redevelopments are hoping that AFC will be able to provide real solutions to matters such as connectivity and traffic management.
We want to arrive at Thebarton Oval being seen to be good neighbours, and we've demonstrated that without compromising the plans.
The Crows have set a timeline of 2 months to find a builder and hope to turn soil in September. Will DeFulvio, 9 News.
And the Crows are joining the fight against motor neurone disease by staging the first ever SA freeze at tomorrow night's clash against Richmond at Adelaide Oval. Rory Laird was dunked at training today, with all players donning big freeze beanies in a show of support.
We know that there are so many South Australians that have been impacted by MND, that are currently fighting MND. So it's moments like these that we pause and reflect, and we honour them in their fight, and we do our bit.
50% of the funds from the club's Big Freeze memberships will be donated to the charity.
And Tom Wren joins us now with a look ahead to sport. Rennie, and Matthew Nix has already frozen out a veteran Crow.
Yeah, Katie's lost patience with the ruckman Riley O'Brien. Hi everyone, he's not the only key name missing out after Taylor Walker failed to overcome a back injury. We're live with the teams a little later. Plus the coach gets the backing of the board on the eve of that must-win clash. Port Adelaide captain Connor Rosie edges closer to a return from injury. And defending champion Novak Djokovic forced to withdraw from the French Open with a knee injury.
Thank you, Rennie. See you soon. A legend of entertainment and comedy loses his battle.
John Blackman, a long-time funny man and a stalwart of Australian TV, dies at the age of 76. We'll have our tribute to him next.
Also, Paris wants a green Olympics, but temperatures are already hitting 40 degrees. See the plan to keep our Aussie athletes cool.
And the sea puts on a show, a sparkly spectacle off Adelaide's southern coastline. John Blackman, the man who made millions of Australians laugh on Hey Hey It's Saturday, has died aged 76.
Renowned for his lightning-fast wit, the much-loved radio man and television comic is probably best remembered for his cheeky character, Dickie Knee.
He was TV and radio's quintessential funny man, who, even in the face of adversity, continued to find a funny side.
They didn't take out the motor, just the exhaust sounds a little bit woofy.
In 2019, Blackman was diagnosed with an aggressive skin cancer. Surgeons forced to remove his jaw. But far from retreating from public life, he continued to live it to the fullest. A fortnight ago, Blackers was at the launch of an art exhibition by former Hey Hey It's Saturday colleague Andrew Fife. A generation was brought up on Hey Hey. Blackman, in the confines of his upstairs audio booth, firing off those rapid one-liners.
Have a go, make my day, come on.
His ribbing of Molly Meldrum became legendary.
Which number? City number 4. Gee, you go through a lot of dogs. Has the RSPCA heard about this?
Molly today telling 9 News, "I'm deeply saddened by the loss of my dear friend John. John was an amazing person, I loved him dearly. But it was another cast member who further propelled Blackman to national stardom.
You need a spanking. Oh, yes, please. Come on.
Dickie Knee, a head on a stick, gave Blackers a licence to work a little blue.
This is Dickie Knee. Nice to meet you, Dick.
How you doing? Nice to meet yours as well.
Daryl Summers was too distraught to appear on camera today, but in a statement said, "I'm devastated at the loss of my beloved friend. He used to say his mission on Hey Hey was to break me up, and at times I'd be crying with uncontrollable laughter. Sadly today, I'm just crying." While TV and radio was his passion, there was no greater love in Blackman's life than his wife Cecile and daughter Tiffany. Although Blackman continued to battle cancer, it was a heart attack which led to his death. And in reflecting on a wonderful life, it would only be fair to allow Blackers the last word.
I was very enamoured by, the fact that there's so many people, there's so much love out there.
Tony Jones, 9 News.
End of an era. Well, Medibank is being sued by the privacy watchdog over the cyber breach that saw personal details of almost 10 million Australians compromised with sensitive medical information posted on the dark web. The Australian Information Commission says Medibank failed to protect its customers, and the Health Fund could theoretically face a maximum fine of $21 trillion.
A glimpse today of the extraordinary efforts the Australian Olympic Committee is taking to ensure our team has success in Paris. From shipping in air conditioners and baristas, the athletes' village will be a home away from home.
With temperatures expected to soar to as high as 40 degrees Celsius.
Olympic athletes could face a tough opponent, brutal Paris heat. But the Australian team has a plan, installing air conditioners in the rooms of our athletes in the village.
Our priority is providing the high-performance environment for our athletes to be able to go in there and compete.
The organisers preferred curtains and blinds for a sustainable games, but there are no excuses for the not-so-green and gold approach.
This was a decision that was strategic for high performance.
It seems nothing has been left to chance. 460 athletes taking on the world in 33 sports. The team will have its own gym, ice baths, 3 dedicated nutritionists, 2 psychologists, 4 wellbeing officers and 3 baristas. And there'll be a taste of home, Weet-Bix and Vegemite on the menu. The French have bigger challenges, ensuring the famous River Seine is clean enough to swim in.
I feel confident in the organising committee that they won't hold an event that will jeopardise the safety of the athletes.
And then there's the safety of the country, hosting an Olympics at a time of war and unrest in other parts of the world.
They have indicated that the security is top class and they are confident that the French have it covered.
Damien Ryan, 9 News.
Our hard-working emergency services personnel are rolling up their sleeves in a bid to boost South Australia's donor blood supplies. SA Police, along with the Metropolitan and Country Fire Services, SA Ambulance workers and the SES, challenging each other to see who can donate the most blood.
Winter's a particularly challenging time for the blood bank, so, give it a little bit of time, take a bit of time and give back to the community. We do get a little bit competitive, there's nothing wrong with that, so we lay down the challenge and the gauntlet to our fellow emergency services to step up again and let's see if we can do even better than we did last year.
The challenge will run for a month.
A sparkling surprise on one of our southern suburbs' beaches last night as a bloom of bioluminescent algae lit up Aldinga Beach. The glowing display seen as the waves rolled in around 6 o'clock. The algae typically appears further north and in warm and calm conditions.
Stunning. Well, the weather was slightly less punishing around Adelaide today.
And Jessica Braithwaite, a small step up in the temperature stakes.
Yeah, just a baby step. Not exactly balmy by any means, but certainly a little bit warmer than how we started out this week. Today we managed to make it the high to mid-teens around many suburbs, so 17 degrees was our top in the city. Right now it's pretty chilly though. Outside it's just 14 degrees. Now from here for the next couple of days we're in a bit of a holding pattern really. We're looking pretty stable and dry. On the weekend though there is a front coming through. You can see it waiting in the wings there and we could see the odd light shower out of that over Saturday and Sunday. So I'll watch that one closely. I've got the details coming up for you in the full forecast soon.
Great, we'll see you then. Thanks Jessica. Well, in the news ahead, politics can be a messy game.
And in the UK it really was. Still to come, Nigel Farage cops a McDonald's thick shake to the face as the British election gets underway.
Also, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi clings to power despite losing his majority.
And Aldi joins the insurance game. Will their supermarket shelf bargains extend to policies?
It could be happening in any home.
Nothing gets done, nothing gets talked about until they're in a body bag.
9 News Adelaide shines a light on violence against women. The stories of victims turning pain into change. The survivors desperate for more help. And how we all have the power to help end this crisis. Watch the full series on 9 Now. The two men hoping to be elected British Prime Minister next month have faced off in their first televised debate.
It was almost overshadowed, though. In a day of drama, controversial figure Nigel Farage copping a thick shake to the face at his campaign launch.
Day one of Nigel Farage's election campaign getting off to a shaky start. A milkshake thrown in the face of the Reform UK party leader as he walked out of a pub in Essex. Multiple angles emerging of the incident involving the banana-flavoured beverage, which happened in front of a sizable crowd gathered for his campaign launch. Mr Farage trying to make the best of it.
My milkshake brings all the people to the rally.
The internet doing what it does best.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
He's been milk-shook before while campaigning for Brexit in 2019. On this occasion, a local woman's been charged with suspicion of assault. An enduring image of the campaign as the two men hoping to go the distance clashed in their first TV debate.
I am going to draw a line under this part of the debate.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour's Sir Keir Starmer trading blows on the economy and immigration. Polls have Mr Sunak already on the ropes and with little chance of fighting back. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Narendra Modi is set for a third term as India's Prime Minister after claiming election victory. But the 73-year-old's Hindu Nationalist Party fell short of the overwhelming majority he wanted. Unemployment and the rising cost of living affected the result, along with a stronger than expected showing from his opposition. US First Lady Jill Biden was front and centre in a US courtroom today as Hunter Biden's gun trial began. The 54-year-old son of President Joe Biden is facing 3 federal charges, accused of lying about being a drug addict while purchasing a firearm in 2018.
British D-Day veterans have made the journey from Portsmouth to Normandy by ferry to mark the 80th anniversary of the battle. They gathered on the deck, cheered on by dozens who lined the shoreline before laying rigs and observing a flyover.
I did my best on D-Day, like other people do.
There were more touching moments in Normandy when veterans from the United States were greeted by the French First Lady.
Our mobile phones do a lot of things.
But could that also include help prevent skin cancer? When 9 News returns, how a smartphone scan of your eye can help measure your risk of serious sun damage.
Also ahead, the supermarket giant taking on the insurance game.
And the concerns over a rise in quick fix solutions to ADHD.
ADHD experts say quick-fix diagnoses and medication-only treatments could have long-term implications for a patient's well-being. The number of ADHD prescriptions handed out has more than doubled over the last 5 years. Health professionals say reducing stigma has seen Australians feel more comfortable to seek help, but they're concerned a lack of comprehensive assessment is leading to inaccurate diagnosis.
It shook up Australia's grocery market and now it wants to do the same with insurance. Supermarket Aldi will offer home, car and landlord policies at a time when the insurance industry is under fire for surging premiums.
It's been a supermarket disruptor. Now Aldi is taking on the insurance companies that dominate the market.
I would be slightly concerned about this if I was one of the big insurers. The similarities to the grocery space are remarkable. 2 in 3 Australians have their home or car insurance with one of 2 big insurance parent companies.
Aldi will offer home, motoring and landlord policies backed by Honey Insurance and underwritten by RACQ Insurance. Aldi opened its first store in Australia 23 years ago. Coincidentally, insurance premiums are now rising at their fastest rate in those 23 years, up an average 16% annually. After tobacco, insurance is the biggest contributor to inflation. Suncorp, which owns Amy, GIO and Apia, saw its consumer insurance profits surge 534% in 6 months. QBE's annual net profit was up 131%. IAG owns NRMA, CGU, RACV and SGIO. Its profits were up 85% in 6 months. Aldi may not be the cheapest for you. It is, though, promising it won't charge loyal customers more than new ones. But comparing insurance policies and premiums is difficult because the big insurers won't share their data.
We can see all the different energy providers and their pricing. We can see the telcos and their pricing, the banks and their pricing. We can't compare all the insurers across the board on a simple website.
Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
A smartphone tool pioneered by Australian eye experts is being tested as a way to measure early damage caused by the sun. The pocket-sized device has the potential to flag someone's risk of developing skin cancer.
It's a gadget designed to make smartphones capable of measuring sun-related damage. Peter Phillips is helping to validate the tool, having spent much of his life outdoors, surfing and on the job as a greenkeeper. It eventually took a toll, with surgeries to remove melanomas and fix eye damage.
Just taking a lot of precautions when I'm outdoors now, as much as possible, hat, sunglasses.
But experts are pushing for an earlier warning system with the help of this. The special camera clips onto the smartphone and the image of the eye is analysed by an app to measure the amount of UV damage. Experts are testing whether the pocket-sized prototype is as effective as this desktop machine, also invented by the same team.
We've developed this as a biomarker for sun exposure.
And that biomarker could be used as an early warning for skin cancer after an Australian ophthalmologist documented the link to fleshy, non-cancerous growths on the eye's surface called a pterygium.
He had lots of people with pterygium and he noticed that they got their pterygium in their late teens and the skin cancer 10 years later.
100 study participants will be recruited thanks to seed funding.
It comes from our generous community of donors through philanthropy, fundraising activities.
Australia has some of the highest levels of UV radiation in the world. Experts say a simple and effective way of identifying people at greater risk of UV-related disease is urgently needed.
So they can take more precautions of their skin, get themselves checked.
Gabriella Rogers, 9 News.
Well, sport is up next with Tom Rehn. Rennie Taylor-Walker won't play tomorrow night.
Yeah, unfortunately not. He was touch and go to play in that match anyway, and unfortunately that quick turnaround's probably counted against him. We'll have all the team news with Braithwaite Ingram next, as Riley O'Brien pays the price for the Crows' horror loss to the Hawks, while Mitch Georgiades declares it's time for the Powers tools to stand up. And going nowhere, Sydney's Will Haywood on why he decided to stay put.
Incredibly fun, remarkably functional, and effortlessly stylish. Introducing the all-new Ford Puma. A compact SUV that really packs a punch. Looking good has never been this easy. Secure yours today. The all-new Ford Puma. Effortlessly stylish.
Hello again. The Crows have opted not to risk veteran Taylor Walker against Richmond tomorrow night, while ruckman Riley O'Brien has fallen out of favour. Let's go live to Braithwaite Ingram inside Adelaide Oval. Braithwaite, the coach has lost patience.
Rennie, it's a game Matthew Nicks simply can't afford to drop, so therefore there are 4 changes headlined by O'Brien. Despite having 35 hitouts last week against Hawthorn, he has been dropped, having played every game this season. Kieran Strawn will play just his 6th career game and his first since 2022. Such a big task against the might of Toby Nankervis. In terms of the other changes, Hamill, McHenry and Dowling are all in. Cook is out with a knee injury, but the big other name that is out is Taylor Walker. He conducted a very lengthy fitness test here at Adelaide Oval this morning, trying to convince Nicks and the medico staff that he was good to go, that he could play through those back spasms that saw him subbed out last week. That isn't the case. They're not going to risk him, and so they'll need to kick a winning score without him up in that forward line, hoping the likes of Josh Rochelle can return to form.
A confronting few days for all in Crow colours, none more so than Josh Rochelle.
Josh and I have had a really good chat this week.
That debrief with the coach coming after Rochelle told 9 News he'd asked questions internally about his lack of midfield opportunities following a quiet output against Hawthorn. Veteran Brodie Smith today wrapping his arms around the 21-year-old, who now has the answers he sought.
Off the back of poor performance, sometimes as a team, what can happen is some frustration, and we've worked our way through that.
He's certainly not the only man down on form, but Matthew Nicks is steadfast in the belief his side won't produce another lifeless effort come tomorrow night.
We're clear on the fact that that's not acceptable, and we're not going to stand for that. So we'll come into this week's game with a real chip on our shoulder about our performance.
With Richmond still riddled by injury, the hosts enter the encounter as heavy favourites. Failure to back that up with victory will ramp up the scrutiny on Nicks, after he was recontracted only months ago when finals were considered a must this season.
We believed at the time, and still do, that Matthew Nicks is the right coach for the Adelaide Football Club currently. And we have no issue with extending his contract for the 2 years.
The hierarchy willing to give a young playing group more time, with debutant Billy Dowling at the forefront of that approach.
Billy's an accumulator. He can find the footy, sees the game really well, he's got great awareness. So he deserves his opportunity and probably has for a period of time.
Braithwaite Ingram, 9 News.
Well, having re-signed with the Swans, Will Hayward says he never contemplated a return to Adelaide to join the Crows or Power. Both clubs showed interest in the 25-year-old, who insists Sydney is now his home.
After 8 years away, these guys are my family now, and my family know that. They embrace my family as well, and they're super pumped that I'm staying here as well.
Hayward joins teammates Errol Goulden and Ollie Florent in signing new deals this season. Meantime, Port Adelaide's priming itself for a massive second half of the season, while captain Connor Rozee looks increasingly likely to return from an ankle injury after the bye. It's the club's tall forwards who have a point to prove.
Back to business after the bye-round break, and the captain clearly couldn't wait to get back to work. Connor Rozee itching to return after an eventful week off that saw him become a father while still rehabbing that troublesome ankle.
Yeah, Connor's had probably a pretty tough run over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully 2 weeks now until the game almost, so he'll be able to get up, which will be great.
The Power left feeling blue before the break, but they're not buying into suggestions they're a fake top 4 team.
We just got to recognise the position we're in. We're pretty happy with it where we're at now. It's 8-4 going to the bye.
Georgiades now priming himself for a big back half of the year, admitting he finally feels like his old self after that torn ACL.
You got to be on your toes 24/7, and I definitely feel like I'm adjusting now and getting back into it.
And in a season that's seen the club's small shine, he says it's time for the tall timber to step up.
Us big boys, we want to take it on. We think it's our forward line, and we want the responsibility of kicking goals. So it's something we're still working on, and week to week it's a challenge.
A giant test awaiting on Sunday week against GWS. Will Crouch, 9 News.
Well, the Western Bulldogs have told Tom Liberatore he needs to do things a little differently when he returns against Brisbane. Libba has been concussed twice this season, prompting the dog to make a few changes to his game.
You see the commitment and the head first stuff. We want him to do it a little bit differently. Instincts kick in, he may not be able to. He understands that we're trying to help him when he's in those situations and those circumstances.
Ed Richards has been ruled out of Friday night's clash. He'll miss a second game, also with concussion. Well, Rugby League's fiercest rivalry reignites tonight as New South Wales hosts State of Origin Game 1 in Sydney. With Queensland having won back-to-back series victories, it's the hosts who go in as underdogs. The Blues looking to avoid a third straight series loss. It kicks off straight after the news, live and exclusive right here on 9. Well, this is big news. A knee injury has forced world number 1 Novak Djokovic to withdraw from Roland Garros. The Serb pulled out of his clash with Casper Ruud after hurting his knee in the lead-up to the quarterfinals. It means Yannick Sinner will become the first Italian men's number 1 after he beat Grigor Dimitrov in straight sets.
It's tough also for the tournament, Novak retiring, it's always tough. Talking about myself, I am very happy about this achievement.
Yeah, he's done well. Women's number 1 seed Iga Swiatek powered her way into the semis with a 6-love, 6-2 victory. She's looking like the one to beat. Alex de Minaur on 9-gem, his quarterfinal. If he wins, it's his best ever result at a Grand Slam, so fingers crossed.
All right, set the alarm. Thanks so much, Reddy. Well, to Money Matters and major economic news nudged the share market higher today. Here's finance editor Chris Kohler.
The share market rose today while everyone wrapped their heads around the GDP figures. The data came in weaker than expected, but economists say it won't move the dial much for the RBA. Most still think the next move for interest rates will be down. Telstra and CSL stood out on the market, both rising around 1.4%, while mining companies struggled as the price of iron ore fell to 2-month lows following weak economic news out of China and the US over the last few days. And the Australian dollar lifted after the GDP data was released. Tonight, 1 Aussie is buying 66.5 US cents, 61 euro cents and 52 British pence.
Thank you, Chris. We'll enjoy the dry weather over the next few days because the rain is returning.
Jessica's along with the forecast next. First, though, tomorrow's speed cameras.
Wake up and laugh with Adelaide's #1 breakfast show.
Rudits and Loz tomorrow on 104.7 Triple M.
For the latest Adelaide news and traffic.
Switch on a Daikin Alira X split system with advanced streamer technology to remove more than 99% of harmful indoor air pollutants and surround yourself with cleaner air this summer. Daikin, perfecting the air.
Hello again. Well, we are settling in for a pretty chilly night around Adelaide tonight, that is for sure. We did manage to make 17 degrees a little bit earlier on, but right now the temperature has already dropped to 13 degrees, so it's time to get the Ugg boots on and maybe an extra layer on the bed tonight. We're getting the warm dooners out. Mount Lofty only made 14 degrees tonight after a low of 6 degrees, and it was a pretty cold start at Mawson Lakes too, where we only got to where we dipped down to 3 degrees this morning before a top of 18 degrees. So through the north of the state, look, we have actually seen a few little lingering showers. We've sort of half a millimetre at Cummins today on the Eyre Peninsula. Port Pirie made 16 degrees, at Clare made 15 degrees. We had a couple of millimetres at Kingscote on Kangaroo Island. We had 18 degrees there. Some cold starts around Keith and Narracourt, dipping down to around 2 degrees this morning. Now, on the charts for the next day or so, we're pretty much sitting in a bit of a holding pattern. We've got the high pressure system just hanging out in the bight there. We do have a front over by the west ready to swing in, but that's not coming through probably until the weekend. So interstate, actually, some really big wet weather is on the way for Sydney. We could see anything from 10 to 45 millimetres there tomorrow and some storms, 18 degrees. And Canberra also looking on the rainy side with 15 degrees tomorrow. Through the north of our state, well, cloudy conditions, probably more so than rain. There is a slight chance of a shower around, but probably nothing heavy. Port Pirie going for 18 degrees and Port Lincoln expecting 17 for a top. And then through the south, we're looking at basically dry, partly cloudy conditions, 17 for Narracourt and 16 for Mount Gambier. On local waters, seas to around a metre, winds starting out south-southeasterly to 10 knots. Now, we could see a bit of a foggy start through the northern suburbs tomorrow, and there is still the slight chance of a shower through the hills or the southern suburbs, but basically looking dry, 18 degrees for the city. A dry day to round out the week on Friday, but then there is just half a chance of a shower creeping onto the forecast for Saturday, Sunday and even into the beginning of next week.
All right, thank you, Jessica. Well, that's the day's news here on 9. Great to have your company.
Stay watching now as we go live to Sydney for Game 1 of State of Origin. Enjoy your evening.
Good night.